First of all, thank you for being here. My name is Christy Leisure. My family has a manufacturing business in Lebanon, GMI Companies. And on behalf of the APC, Area Progress Council of Warren County, we welcome you today to our State of the County. A few things we'd like to introduce. We have some dignitaries with us today. If you could stand up when I call your name. Representative Scott Lips, Representative Matthews, and Beth Hammond, the Attorney General Secretary. Where is she? Oh, thank you. Also, as a token to Arla, you all know how this goes. Anyone that was in the leadership Warren County class, could you raise your hand? All right. Told you. All right, thank you for that. Just a reminder, if you could make sure your cell phones are on silent or vibrate so we don't have to worry about any ringing going off during the program, I'd appreciate it. We'd also like to thank our sponsors. Pace setters would be Advix, Festo, Recored, LCNB, Conger Construction, and Sinclair College. At the sustainers level, we have Duke Energy, Flagel Huber and Flagel, MSP Design, Otterbein Senior Life, and Warren County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and at the Voyager level, GMI Companies. All right, with all that being said, I would like to introduce, which I'm sure you all already know, our county commissioners, the President Shannon Jones, Vice President David Young, and Tom Grossman. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
We're doing things a little bit differently today. The commissioners are going to each speak for a couple of minutes, and after they have presented, I won't be asking questions this year. We will have a question and answer. So if you guys are okay with saving questions, and if not, if it's a burning question like they have asked during, please don't hesitate. Just raise your hand. Arla will be circulating with a microphone at that point. And from that, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Christy, and thank you to the Area Progress Council for hosting our State of the County again this year. We really appreciate not only the invitation, but our partnership with you and your members to make Warren County a great place to live, work, and raise your family. So thanks for having us. There's nothing like going to an event and having to endure not one politician speak, but 3 politicians speak. But we'll do our best to keep it short and really turn it back over to you all for questions that you have of us, anything that we can answer about county government. It is County Government Month after all, so it's a good chance to engage with us about your government. So we've divided up the topics a little bit to try to keep it interesting for you, but as I was thinking over the weekend about what I was going to say, I decided on Saturday, sort of spur of the moment, because this is my first holiday weekend as a true empty nester with neither of my children coming home, which was really weird. So I decided spur of the moment, if they can't come to me, then I'm going to get my car with my Easter basket and head out to OU, which is what I did on Saturday, to take my daughter to lunch. And as I was driving to OU, because I should say, my husband was not with me because he was driving to Chicago with his Easter basket to take to our son who lives in Chicago. So as I was heading out there, and I haven't driven out to OU since, I haven't been out there since we moved her in August, my daughter Anna. And so when I was heading up 71 North, and as I got off the exit to get on 35, I see in the distance to my kind of left-hand side this massive construction project. And as I continued down 35 for the next 10 miles, one after another, major construction projects, lots of semi-trucks, lots of big bays, lot of development coming on. And what in that moment really struck me was just how close all of that development is to Warren County and how Warren County is going to be impacted by it. So I heard Neil Tunison at the county engineer's report to the township trustees talk about Intel and Honda and what those huge state investments were going to mean to Warren County. And he really put it in perspective because he said, from the exit that I get on from the northern part of the county to get on I-71 and head north, to the exit that I took to go visit my daughter at OU is exactly 20 miles. So when you hear about these major investments that are happening in the state and you think that that's not here in Warren County, I really challenge you to think again, because our growth, our future is really going to, that development that's going to happen on the western side of our county is going to be tremendous. So as they and we continue to look for workforce and for affordable workforce housing and for transportation to move people to and from work, and high-quality schools, and access to quality and affordable childcare, you see we have kind of our future right in front of us, some of the things that we absolutely need to be focusing on, not because the shovels are necessarily turning in Warren County today, but it's coming. It's coming. And so we have an opportunity, I think, in this county, not just as commissioners, but I think all of us bear some responsibility to really step up the conversation around what is it that we want to be, how do we want to position ourselves for success as we balance all that's going to happen over the next 10, 15, 20 years. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. I was so stunned by what's happening there just north of Warren County. So a couple of things that I'll talk about that we've been working on since last we met that I think really speak to our attempt to try to position ourselves to be in the strongest possible financial position. And I think all the things that my colleagues will mention really speak to having a very strong and continuing to have a very strong foundation in the county, which we do. And last time around, we talked about some of the infrastructure investments that we were making in our water and sewer system to upgrade the service that we were providing to our residents and businesses alike. So along those same lines, Dave, Tom, and I did a RFP out to the community for some investments in broadband. We know that while we have a lot of our residents and businesses that have access to broadband, not everybody in our county does. And certainly we're seeing these massive investments being made all over the state in broadband. And for Warren County to be as competitive as possible, we needed to be able to make sure that this community was fully fiber as fast as possible. And so we took about $4.8 million of public investment and leveraged that to get about $100 million in private investment to ensure every resident and business in Warren County over the next 3 years would have access to fiber. And while there are some communities that have access to nothing, we've been able to structure the contract in a way to make sure those communities get served first. So we want those communities, many that are in the western part of the county, or the eastern part of the county, to get those facilities first. But we really are trying to make sure that the county remains competitive for business and a desirable place for people to want to live and work. One of the other things that I've been working on is really trying to get my arms around the workforce challenges. And many of you who are in this room today, I've met with over the last year or so. And when I ask the question, like, what is the number one challenge that you and your business or you and your organization are facing, inevitably I hear workforce and the inability to attract qualified workforce. And so, you know, listen, I'm trying to solve a problem. I hear the workforce is a problem, so I'm like, okay, so what's the solution to this problem? And who's doing what to help solve this problem? And what I realized is that while there were some programmatic things happening and certainly some good core partners out there that were working in the workforce development space, there wasn't a lack of knowledge about who was doing what, where were there the gaps. And so with the support of Duke Energy and Sinclair Community College and the ESC, we have put together a process to start to really understand what the workforce challenges are and scope out what is the plan that we need in this county to develop and retain workforce in the community. How many people, who here, if anybody, has been participating in that discovery process? Raise your hands. So there's quite a few of you. We're currently in the discovery process where there's been some deep engagement with committees. There's been some surveying that goes on, and that our hope is by the end of May that there is a report from the community to say, here's what our assets are, here's where our opportunities are, and more importantly, we have people who've been engaging in this process who are volunteering to lead areas of this work to implement the process. And so while that's not work of the county, I'm really proud of this work and just as a convener to bring people together, to provide the support and the impetus for engagement, because that workforce piece is really critical. So the last thing I really say is, you know, there's a reason why you all are, there are many reasons why you all are saying we're challenged by workforce. And on one hand, we're really fortunate. We have a 3.2% unemployment rate in the county, far lower than the states, far lower than the national average. So that's the good news, bad news. We don't have lots of people who are looking for work. In fact, we have, 500 or 600 people who are unemployment. And the last time I checked, we had 2 adults on cash assistance. And yet, when I talked to Matt Fetty over at Ohio Means Jobs, the most recent numbers, we have around 3,200 open jobs, or open postings. And those postings in and of themselves represent far more in many cases than one job. It's one company who's posting for maybe 25 nurses or 10 forklift operators. And that's just within a 5-mile radius of Lebanon. So there's a reason why we're feeling this pressure. So we've got to focus on what are some of the barriers that exist in our community that we can start to address as a community, so we can develop the workforce that we need for the future. Dave and Tom will talk about some of those things that we've been working on around that. But the last thing I'll say here is we have focused some of our effort around trying to ensure that families are supported and parents can remain engaged or engage in the workforce by helping to partner with some organizations to help build up our childcare capacity in the community, especially with infants and toddlers. We have very few infant and toddler slots in our community, which is keeping parents from being able to stay connected to the workforce. We've been working on a mental health project that's a 2-year project that's, again, an assessment of what are the mental health needs and resources in the community to start map that out so that providers and others, schools can help to build out the system we really need to meet families. And in fact, we've done some scholarships for parents who wish to get back into the workforce that are just above the eligibility for subsidy, but not yet self-sufficiency in the particular job that they're going into, as an incentive to get them into the workforce through some child care support. So those are just a few of the things that we've been working on just to try to continue to build on our foundation so that we're poised to solve the workforce problem of today, but also the workforce challenges of tomorrow.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. It's always an interesting time to meet with this group. I was talking to Tina over in the corner, and I think this is pushing, 17, 18 years that I've been doing this. And this is always interesting to get in the same room with you folks, because this council, this group is about progress inside of Warren County. How do we move the ball forward every day, which is what we try to do as commissioners, is help our community grow and prosper into the future. And we know and we fully recognize it's really not us. It's really you. It's free market capital. We're just trying to lay the foundation to where free market capital and the human spirit and the American spirit can really get going and produce the outcomes for all of us to help support our way of life, our families, and ourselves. And Commissioner Jones brought up an interesting point about the development, and just to piggyback on that for a second, I'm actually fortunate enough to sit on the Ready Cincinnati board. That's basically the Greater Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce action board for all of the tri-state area. And this is Mayor of Cincinnati, the owners of the Reds, owners of Great Western Southern. So there's a lot of folks that really know what they're talking about. Somehow I weaseled my way onto that committee, but those folks actually know something about economic development, and we've made a concerted effort that the Intel project in suburban Columbus is going to have a dramatic impact for years to come on Warren County. That there is, by rule, there's a limitation that Intel has put on suppliers immediately surrounding their factory. They don't want to compete for this labor force that's in such a shortage. So I think it's 80, 90 miles, something like that, outside of the jurisdiction of the new Intel $20 billion facility. Take a guess where that puts it on I-71. Warren County. It's coming. On that corridor on 71, there will be ancillary suppliers to that new factory coming. There will be high-tech jobs that are going to be coming to this area. And I think we as a group have to prepare for that and try to foster that environment and be as prepared as we can, because that is a transformative event, in my humble opinion, of what this next generation of economic development could really look like inside of the county. And along those lines, Ready Cincinnati did something else interesting recently that I think we try to present this area of local government and how does local government look and feel and what's it supposed to do. And local government does have an impact, and we as a body at Ready Cincinnati are actually leveraging that. Guess what we're doing right now with one of our neighboring cities, Chicago. We are absolutely targeting Chicago businesses to come to Southwest Ohio. Why? Because local government's a mess. Taxes are a mess. Crime is a mess. There is an opportunity for, again, a free market choice if those companies understand, wait, there's another Midwestern city that maybe has a lower standard or lower cost of doing business and a more highly educated workforce. Those are the type of things that we're trying to do on a regional basis. Then on a local basis, if I want to shift and talk about that for a little bit, I think our nation's at war in a lot of ways, especially culturally. We have a lot of issues going on, but there's also attacks coming to us. And we addressed one of those recently inside of the county. I was actually really surprised to learn this when I brought in our telecom folks. We as commissioners brought in our telecom folks and had a little summit and brought in the consultant we had. Every day, every government inside of Warren County is getting cyber attacked. It is a fact. There are so many things that are attacking us, trying to shut us down, trying to get to a new level, trying to get through firewalls, all of those things I don't really understand, but it is happening every day, and we now have decided that that's something that we're taking very seriously as a board and saying, it's not if this is going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And then we think about the ramifications for things like public safety. If our system gets hacked and we operate the 911 system and grandma has a heart attack and 911 is down, those are the type of things that keep us up at night. That's really, really serious stuff. With our computer, with the sheriff and Chief Deputy Riley, when they're out on calls and their CAD system isn't operating correctly because there's been an attack, those are the things of who are you interacting with on a normal traffic stop. Those are all the type of things that we are trying to address from a public safety standpoint, and we take those things very, very seriously. So then I was flipping through the Cincinnati Business Courier, and a lot of times when you see your name in the paper, it's like, whoa, wait a second, that wasn't me. But this one, it was actually, this is good, because I looked and it said Greater Cincinnati's top counties for economic growth. You've got all sorts of Dearborn, Claremont, Butler, Hamilton, Kenton, Campbell, Boone, and guess who's at the top of the list? Good old Warren County. And it really wasn't a surprise, but from our standpoint, we had the strongest GDP growth of any county in Southwest Ohio between 2020 and 2021. It came in at 9.2%. The national GDP increased over that period by 5.9%. The average county came in at 3.3. We were triple the average county in the increase of GDP. And as a matter of fact, I think the way that they would calculate this, that's coming off of an incredibly low number because of the pandemic. And remember, Warren County during the pandemic economically did pretty well. We didn't really shut down like a lot of other folks. So our baseline number wasn't hammered like I think a lot of other surrounding counties are. And so we are very proud of the way that that actually turned out to us, which translates into one of our favorite subjects, which is the financial health of this county. That's one of the things you all want to know. How is the state of the county? How are we doing? And from a financial perspective, I think one of the things that sets us apart, and I think I've said this just about every time to this group, but I want to reiterate it, that back in 2008 and 9, when the Great Recession hit, and stuff really hit the fan economically in this country in 2008 and 9 and started to come out of it in 10, we didn't lay anybody off in the county. Every political subdivision had layoffs and cutback of services, except us in Warren County. How did we do that? In one of the interviews I did back in the time, I think I said the phrase that we're fiscally conservative all the time. It's easy to be fiscally conservative in bad times because, right, it's somebody else's money. Let's pass it out like it's candy. Everybody's happy when you're passing out somebody else's money. But we're fiscally conservative in the good times also. That's what sets you up to be in a position that we're in right now. We were happy working with our auditor, Matt Nolan, that we were continued at our AAA bond rating, which is really remarkable for a county our size to have a AAA rating. We have general fund, $86 million. Our 23 anticipated revenues, $90 million. We maintained a $48 million carryover in the context of what Commissioner Grossman is going to talk about, of something that we did recently. to our tax profile, but we are very pleased to have a $48 million carryover. And one of the things that I was happy to talk about back in 2012, and I would say it to everybody that listened, and it wound up making national news, and we were on Fox News about this. Congratulations, your county is now debt-free. From a general fund perspective, we have paid off all of the general fund debt of this county. So we are very happy about that. The jail project, again, working with the Sheriff's Department, has gone exactly as planned, up, running, and now officially about to be paid for by that quarter-cent sales tax increase that we did however long ago. And remember, we talked about that was going to be sunsetted, because once normally politicians like to see a revenue stream come in, what do they like to do with it? They spend it. But we knew that this was we made a promise to the residents of Warren County, mainly the taxpayers, saying this is going to be a period certain. We are targeting this revenue for a very specific purpose, on a public purpose that was massively needed, expanding our jail. We had done everything else under the sun with ankle bracelets and alternative sentencing and all the other things that we possibly could do. We ran out of alternatives, and now we were starting to let some really bad people out of our jail. So we expanded the jail. This quarter-cent tax increase paid for it. We budgeted $58 million for the project. It came out in at 56.5. We actually spent $53 million, and the sales tax collected almost $59 million. We borrowed $42 million for that, which is actually about to be paid off this year out of a specific fund. So we are very pleased about that. We did this, and now we talk a little bit about the national issues. One of the things that I think we've talked about for a long time was we were very concerned about the budget profile of our country, that how much spending we have embarked on. And I think for years I talked about, we're going to pay the piper. Chickens are going to come home to roost. And guess what? This past year, they did, through inflation. And we did these financial things even in the context of record high inflation for decades, that in January of 2021, inflation was 1.4%. March of 21, inflation more than doubled to 2.5%. Well, what happened in March of 2021? Congress passed the American Rescue Act. $1.9 trillion poured on top of an economy that already had tremendous pent-up demand coming out of a pandemic. So it was already starting to recover. All those decisions were just pent up. We just delayed buying a new car. Didn't mean we didn't need a new car. We just delayed the purchase. And then the federal government poured kerosene on that fire, and all of a sudden, by the end of 2021, our inflation rate was 7% in this country, and then by February of 22, when Putin actually invaded Ukraine, we hit 7.5%. So we did all these, in my opinion, wonderful financial things in the context of really fighting an uphill battle nationally from a financial perspective. Because, again, I try to be a positive person, especially what's going on in Warren County, but I am concerned about what's going on nationally. I saw a study today, 58% of all residents in our country live paycheck to paycheck. That's not good. 70% of all people are really concerned about their own personal financial situation. So, again, the state of Warren County is one thing. The state of our national economy is quite another thing. But we're very pleased with the outcome. And again, it's not us. I can't reiterate that enough. We just try to set the table for you, the free market, private capital, to go out and do what you do best when government stays out of your way. And I think Warren County is a shining city on the hill that shows when government stays the heck out of the way, good things can happen. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize two of my favorite people, that this is going to be their last Area Progress Council, State of the County. Tiffany Zindel and Tina Davis are both retiring this year. Thank you both.
Okay, well, I wasn't thanked, but in any event, they've done a great job for us and has made our job much easier. It's a wonderful position to be in as a commissioner when you have fellow commissioners like Dave and Shannon, who are bright, smart, always have good questions. We're collegial, we work well together. They can even work with me. And so I know that it's a pleasure also to come back with the Area Progress Council. I was in the second leadership class, and there are some people here today, Larry Hollingshead, who was in my class. He and I are very close in age together, and he's over in that table. And Richard Jones, I think I saw him here too. He was in my class. Tim Abbott is almost always here, but I guess he's not here today.
Lives in
He's in
Florida.
Florida, I know, and he's kind of, he's still involved, but he's sort of spent a lot more time in Florida. So it's always fun to come back to this group. And we recently had a major church in Warren County that wanted to put up a boys' home for juvenile young men whose families had neglected them and they couldn't be taken care of in their home. And they wanted to put in a home, and we actually made that possible. And during, when the pastor of that church announced what we had done, he said, you know, I went into this meeting of commissioners. He said, I don't know what commissioners do. In fact, he said, the only commissioner I know is Commissioner Gordon from Batman. And, so I'm sure that you all are more knowledgeable, but, you know, the commission is set up by the legislature in the state of Ohio. We're not established by the Ohio Constitution. Cities, for example, are established by the Ohio Constitution. And because we're established by the state legislature, the only thing that we are allowed to do is what the legislature has said and enacted laws that we can do. Now, with regard to entities like a city that are established by the Ohio Constitution, if it's silent, they can do it. So they have a lot more jurisdiction than we do. But we have very specific jurisdiction, and so just to give you a small snippet of what we do, one of our primary functions, of course, is we collect a certain amount of real estate taxes and sales tax, which are our primary two ways in which our operations are funded. And then we budget for the county, and primarily we are budgeting for our countywide elected offices. And so many of those elected positions are here today. So I know that I saw our Sheriff Sims is here. The Sheriff's office is a big part of our budget. Our prosecutor, David Fornshell, is here today. I think that Barney
Linda
Wright, our
Oda.
treasurer, was there. Linda Oda, our recorder's here. Yes, I see her over there. And I'm sure that is Matt Nolan here? I didn't see Matt, but he normally is here, our auditor. And and our clerk is not here, but, and we have a coroner as well. And so we actually take money that we bring in and we budget for each of those offices, and we budget for our court system. In addition to doing that, so all of those people, all of those county offices that perform very important county functions are paid for and budgeted by the commissioners. Next, we have to provide facilities for our county offices. So for example, David Young mentioned our sheriff and the fact that we built a new jail. And that's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to contract for that, get bids on that, let those bids, and oversee those kinds of projects. And we've got other projects that are in the future. We've gone through a study recently that we're looking at for other building projects that we have to supply offices for the services that are provided by these county offices and county court system. Another thing that we do is we've got some function over our unincorporated areas of the county. That's townships. And some townships are home rule where they do their own zoning, and some are not. And for example, today we had a hearing dealing with a development in a particular township. In this case, it was Franklin Township. And they had certain road questions, and we had to make decisions regarding that. So we make zoning decisions and development decisions with regard to townships, cities. They're their own thing. I love I was on Mason Council for 11 years. It was and some of my friends in Mason are at the table over here. And that was a wonderful time being on council. But they have their cities are their own cities, their own jurisdiction. We don't have jurisdiction over cities, but we do in the townships. And we also have, we have provision of sewer services and water services in certain parts of the county. So those are the kind of basic functions that we serve. And we have many other county offices, and there are other county functions where we are part of providing or putting on tax levies. So for example, our Department of Developmental Disabilities or Senior Services have separate functioning boards, and but they're funded through real estate taxes. And one of the things that you may know is that last year, you didn't pay any taxes to Warren County or to Warren County entities, in this case, Senior Services and the Developmental Disabilities, you didn't pay any taxes. And there was about a $46.5 million tax break. David Young called that a tax holiday, so I never put taxes and the word holiday together usually, but what it meant is that we had a one-year tax break, the largest in Ohio history. No one else had ever done anything like this before. But we decided, and we had the money, so that we did not take in any revenue in 2022 on real estate taxes in Warren County. And still this year, as David mentioned, the surplus we still had this year, because the county is very well run, that we are, I'm not sure that we're completely debt-free yet. Is it going to be in June that we're debt-free? But we're going to be debt-free if we're not yet.
Our
very
GRF
soon.
is debt-free, but
Yeah.
we'll have, the jail still will be paid off.
So, as you might know, we're very proud of the county and its performance. We are ranked number 2 in the state for health outcomes. That deals with the length of life of our citizens, our residents, and the quality of their life. There, 4 Warren County communities are in the top 10 safest community list in 2023. We have, obviously, wonderful school systems in Warren County, and we're the 3rd fastest growing county in Ohio. You might wonder we've got some major industries, major companies in Warren County. But a very significant part of our county is tourism. We have a very large base of people coming from outside our county for tourism, and we're told by our Convention and Visitors Bureau that we have about 13.1 million visitors each year. Now, actually, that's not necessarily all from outside the county. Those are people that are visiting specific venues where they can measure that number. And they have told us as well that we have about, from visitors who are using or coming into certain venues, we have about a $1.45 billion in economic impact from those visitors in Warren County. We also, so this is an extremely significant part of our county and its economic performance, is from visitors that come in and go to certain venues in this county. And we also have a Warren County Sports Park, which probably most of you have heard about. This is operated by our Convention and Visitors Bureau, and it hosted in 2022 48 different events, and they had over 960,000 attendees during that year, with roughly $63 million in estimated economic impact. So we, of course, want to facilitate that. We want to facilitate that quality of life in our county, and we're here to serve this county. We have only certain things we can do. I know my kids think that I have a lot more power than I do have, but nevertheless, I don't even have power in our own household. That's actually reposed with my wife, Kathy. But at the end of the day, we're your public servants. And our constituents are the people that are the residents of this county. And we have sought to do our very best to make this a county that does not tax you at a high rate. David was talking about a mess, but that wasn't in Warren County, that was in another jurisdiction. And we have done, I think, a very good job of keeping our taxes low, keeping our services high, and making this county a wonderful place to have a business, to raise a family, to go to school, and to stay in this county. And obviously, not only are our residents staying here, but lots of other people from other jurisdictions outside of our county are coming here. So with that, I don't know whether we want to open this up to
Yeah,
questions.
Absolutely.
And you can ask a question of any one of us or all of us.
Charlotte's circulating. I just wanted to bring up circulating answers. I also wanted to bring up, I don't know how many of you realize that the commissioners have a presence on YouTube. We've had several members in our Area Progress Council that's asked me about different things, and I don't always have the answers. So I push them to the Warren County Commissioners. Make sure you put of Ohio in the YouTube search, and you can be present for their meetings. It's about a week delay, sometimes 2-week delay, but it's a great resource to go and listen to see who's presenting to our commissioners and the different things that are happening in Warren County. So I encourage you to do that if you have the time. Because I know we can't all make your meetings. I know they're riveting, but
They are.
Can't miss TV.
can't miss TV. Very true. Pop popcorn. Any questions from anyone? You guys were so thorough, you just touched on everything well. Yeah. Yes,
There's a question up here.
up front. She's slowly coming.
Scott Norris, Lebanon City Council. I worked 22 years with mental health in Lebanon and Warren County, and transportation was always our issue. And I sat on many committees, many boards, getting our clients to work, getting them out to the business parks. A lot of people don't have cars, and I know this question comes up probably, I was going to say yearly, probably monthly, weekly to you guys. Is there any plan, a real plan, for transportation to move people from some of these, I know some of the higher end apartments that are being built, these people have cars, but I feel there's a large workforce that's still stymied by, they just can't get to their jobs. Transit is not an answer, not in the form that it's in right now. But is that being discussed in any way, shape, or form as you guys are talking about maybe companies settling in to business parks to supply the business parks going on up north? I've considered, even the possibility of how about locating housing closer to our business parks. Cities used to be built around the factories, taking land that's out there now, like off of Fujitec Drive and building an apartment complex and people would walk to work. But is that ever discussed or even considered?
So I can say a part of this workforce project that I mentioned is really starting to surface transportation, housing, and childcare were the 3 issues that we've heard from stakeholders over and over again. And so I think one of the things that we hope to see from the consultant and the plan is kind of where's the low-hanging fruit, where's the medium-hanging fruit, and where's the kind of longer-term orchard planting that we need to be able to do. And so I think Warren County is at a turning point that we have to, if you were here last year and the time before that, and the time before that when we've had it, I've said, look, I really think that we need to get on the forefront of talking about issues like housing and transportation because they're really central to our economic success. I believe the pandemic and then some of this resurgence of reshoring of manufacturing in Ohio is accelerating that. And so we have not really tackled transportation and housing in a holistic way, but perhaps this community engagement process will kind of be the first step in really understanding what are the assets and the opportunities for us as we try to, provide the services that constituents, residents, businesses need. Your point's well taken.
Sorry, going to reach across.
Richard Jones. As you
No
all target
relation.
our stepsister city in Chicago, I can't say sister because I think it's more of a Cinderella story. But as you look at that, is there certain types of businesses you're looking at there, certain types of industries, workforce that you can target, you think you're going to have better luck at with that workforce to bring here?
Yeah, I mean, the Ready Board targeted that general facility with different type of LinkedIn ads. I mean, the way that they're doing it now, I know they've done a lot of targeted ads even for the Western Southern Tennis tournament, which is something we should probably talk about here for a second. But it's more of, have you considered moving, or if you are considering moving, look at Southwest Ohio. It's in the Midwest, here are the advantages, and just trying to get a conversation started with those. So it's more of target marketing, and I think it is just a broader brush as opposed to we're going to go recruit this. Because I really think, again, the free market's going to dictate a lot of this. Intel coming to Ohio is a game changer in a lot of ways, and so that's going to happen. And hopefully that answers it, because there's not a great answer, but we are targeting from a regional basis Chicago companies. But I think with the state of the county, we probably should give a 30-second update of what's going on with one of our biggest assets in the county, which is the Western Southern Tennis Tournament. That, we've all been involved with that, but I've kind of been in the middle of that here lately because the U.S. Tennis Association during COVID was basically bankrupt. That the tournament stopped, no one was going to tennis, and they had all these assets and all this expenses that were going out the door, and there was no money coming in. So the USTA decided, let's give this a shot and sell one of our events. And I believe they did that with Indian Wells first and brought in like $400 million. And they said, oh, this helps with our balance sheet. Why don't we try something else? Let's sell the Western Southern. And they did. So the Western Southern Open is now owned by a guy named Ben Navarro, who's a billionaire out of Charleston. And he's got a good team around him, good people. He's a big tennis guy, good tennis family that he's involved with, loves the sport. But he doesn't necessarily love Mason and Warren County. He doesn't have a relationship here. So job number one was really trying to indoctrinate his folks into the history of the tournament, why it's got such appeal to stay here, why it should be so important. And then they came, and honestly, they're asking some buy-in. They want some skin in the game from the city of Mason and from us, and we said okay. That their proposal was very reasonable in a lot of ways, considering a lot of sports ownership programs right now, and they're asking for support from the city and the county, and we had some extra, I call them garbage ARPA dollars, you know, the free money that we didn't ask for the national debt. We've had some of that money, so we've allocated some money, and we're also actively pursuing them. I mean, it's things like, not only did they spend $200 or $250 million on the tournament itself, but the facility there at Kings Island is actually really not adequate for, this tournament is going to move to a 2-week tournament, and they're going to have to invest upwards of $150 million into the facility. There's not even a kitchen there. All of the food service programs are all shipped in. So they're doing that, and those are actively, we're courting them, we're dating right now, basically trying to get them to make a decision to buy the asset from Tennis for Charity that technically owns the actual facility right now. And we are really hoping that we're partnering with our partners at the state, Representative Lips and Representative Matthews, who has done some really heavy lifting on this, because the state has a history of being involved with some of these new facilities like the FC Cincinnati or the Columbus Crew. So the state has decided to put some money in the game through the capital budget process, and our representatives have been right in the middle, and Senator Wilson's also been right in the middle of this. So we appreciate our representatives from here inside of the county stepping up. But that's what's going on with the tennis tournament, and it is not a done deal. They're going to be here past 2026. And it is a very big deal. $100 million economic impact, 200,000 people, probably going to 300, if not 400,000 people. There are more hits to the ATPs, or I call it the ATP, the Western Southern Tennis Tournament. There's more international hits to that event than the Reds and Bengals get combined. Think about that. that it is a big deal internationally. And I talked about this with the Ready Executive Board. Think about the correlation between, do we think it's just magic? Look at all of these foreign companies relocating into Warren County. I mean, Mason's got a bunch of them. We've had a bunch of them. You know, another one, the Dayton Daily News building was sent over. I think there is some marketing through Southwest Ohio that's going on, and we have a lot of success with international companies, and I, for one, don't want to see that go away.
Well, you know, on the tennis tournament, I mean, it's helpful to have a city the quality of Mason, which is where the tournament is located, to have been so active in this process as well and helping to get some buy-in. They're all here today, so you can all go afterwards and talk to them about this, and they can reveal whatever they're allowed to reveal. And some of this is not public. But we do think that this is a major asset to our county and our region. And we are doing our best. We've made an offer with Mason to help. We're seeking state support as well. But the right to put on the tournament is called a sanction. And so that sanction was sold to someone from Charleston, South Carolina, and he does not have to keep the tournament here. So that's the issue. Will he keep it here or not? And they're saying that they want to invest another $150 million into the facility. They want to make it a 2-week tournament, which expands it it doubles the size of the tournament. Right now it's a week. And so there's a real live question as to whether or not it will stay here or not. So we're doing what we can, and Mason has been extremely helpful in this process. And the state, we believe, will also be helpful. They'll get involved. But whether it will happen or not, any of you know anybody from Charleston, South Carolina, you want to talk them down. But in any event, we're going to do what we can to keep them here.
Any more questions? Oh. I don't know.
State your name, sir.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for what you've done. You've made our jobs much easier representing Warren County. When we walk into a room, people know Warren County's there, and that's because of you and your efforts. So, first of all, thank you. Everybody in Ohio listens to what Warren County's saying. We've just met with the Ohio Real Estate Association, and they talked about affordable housing, which Shannon, you brought up a couple times. They told us that there are only 84 homes for sale in Warren County from 0 to 2 million. There were only 22 homes for sale from 0 to 299,000. And the builders are building all $400,000 houses. So Representative Matthews, I have been looking to study a project to incentivize builders to build $250,000 homes. But at the state, we haven't solved this. But with Warren County growing, 84 homes for sale in the entire county, not one city, in the entire county. So I'm just posing that to you as a problem. I don't expect an answer, but I hope that's on your screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One more? Anybody? Going once? Going twice?
All right, well, thank you for being here. We appreciate your attendance today.